Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Happy Cole, where we are leading with love. I am so excited for today's episode. I have the beautiful Alexandra Keller here with me. She is the most radiant, beaming light. I truly appreciate her walking into my life and being here today. So excited to have her share her energy. She is truly a healer, a teacher, and a beautiful friend. I appreciate you so much.
Oh my goodness, well thank you. What an introduction. I'm grateful that universe brought us into each other's lives. We're both in such alignment together. The same way that you feel my radiant energy, I feel yours, and I tell you that all the time. It's really beautiful. We attract what we are.
We do.
It's such a blessing to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Why don't we kick things off with learning a little bit about you and your background. You have so many different areas that you have touched. That's the beautiful part of life. Each of our lives is this beautiful, woven, unique journey. I would love to hear about yours.
Absolutely. Yes, there's many different modalities and paths that I work with that have led me to where I am today. I'm an energy healer and spiritual advisor. I support the spiritual transformation of conscious leaders by helping them heal and step into their highest self. I do this because I'm on a mission to raise the collective consciousness. When we heal ourselves and we lead from a place of love and from a higher vibrational frequency, we really heal the collective and heal the planet. Some of the modalities that I use to do this are Reiki. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I use trance-medium healing, plant medicine, psychedelic medicine, mindfulness exercises, and also intuitive guidance. The way that all of these came together was very organic. It started from a place of what my needs were. Growing up, I experienced a lot of trauma, and when I was young, I could feel energies and spirits around me. I could feel myself working with energy, but I didn't really have an understanding of it. As I started experiencing trauma, that conditioning, like everything shut down. My whole energy system shut down in a state to protect myself. I didn't start reconnecting with that until my early 20s. I was in California, originally raised in Pennsylvania, so very different worlds.
Grew up in one, dreaming of another.
Yes, exactly. When I got to California, I was exposed to these different types of healing modalities. When I was growing up, no one told me, oh, you should meditate, go get energy healing, or even look at your trauma. That wasn't addressed. I got to California and I was 21 and feeling there was a lot of turmoil in my life, feeling there was a lot of chaos. I had to sit down and say, what's the common denominator here? It was at the center of all of the chaos. I really started looking inward and realized that I was suffering from complex PTSD, I had a lot of anxiety, and I had a lot of self-destructive behaviors. Started seeking out ways to heal myself, and I remember at one point I was sitting in my room and I had this download. At the time, I didn't have the terminology for that, but it was like this message that came down and said, you need to meditate and align your chakras. At the time, I wasn't even fully sure what chakras were. I did a quick search and I put on some chakra music and I just went into meditation and I saw my entire chakra body light up. I saw all of my energy centers. It was so vivid. I came out of that experience thinking, this must be what happens. This is just normal. I realized there's something happening here. And so I started seeking out teachers, therapists, energy healers, plant medicine guides that could help me really heal. The goal was not spiritual awakening. That wasn't even on the horizon at that point. I just wanted to heal, to feel good, to be happy, to lead from love, to not feel like there was chaos around me. But in the healing and in the freeing of trauma from my energy body, it created such a charge. It fully opened my third eye and my crown chakra.
How did that affect you in your daily life?
Oh my gosh, it was not easy. I'm sure you've heard the term the dark night of the soul. I had gotten to this point of healing and was feeling really good, and then everything started awakening. I was asking myself, what's going on here? I started feeling isolated from other people, started feeling like, how can I exist in this material world if none of these people even believe these experiences that I'm having? What really helped was when I started working with clients and able to validate things. I would say, oh, okay, I'm seeing this in your field, or I am noticing this, and then they would validate that and I'd say, okay, I can trust this intuition. But it took me a while to get there. It was a 10-year journey of really understanding how we can connect to our higher self or our intuition, and deciphering what is the ego voice, what's the intuitive voice, and feeling really safe in that. Getting to a place where I realized I don't have to choose one world or the other. I get to play in both. I get to love and be in the material world, enjoy going shopping, enjoy just like going to the movies with friends, the very human experience that we're here to live. And I can enjoy astral projecting, seeing my higher self, getting these intuitive downloads, or seeing energy. If I was to just blast off into my spiritual, I'd be forgetting the whole purpose of being on this planet, which is to be human. As your mission here is to lead with love and to be connected to others and be in our humanness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It sounds like although so much beauty was going on and happening, it was also very lonely and confusing and a bit hard to navigate and know exactly what was going on.
Yes.
First off, even just how to heal ourselves, where to start. There are so many different modalities. One approach will work for one person, one approach will work for another, and those two won't always be the same. So navigating that alone can be confusing. Yeah. And then once you're on that journey, you might think that it's working and you're in a good state, and then all of a sudden you feel different. How do you navigate when you're at that moment where you feel like you've made 5 steps progress and then 10 steps backwards? Yeah. What does that mean?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So I always say the healing journey is not linear, and oftentimes it can feel like we're moving backward, but it's actually the process of the arrow. When you think about an arrow, you pull it back, and that actually allows it to gain the momentum to charge forward. Oftentimes in our healing journey, it can be like that. I remind people that 1, it's not linear, and 2, if you feel like you're moving back, it's actually because you're ready to process something deeper that maybe you weren't at that time. And so we're going back to address that. But then what happens when you release this block that you may have, or this trauma, or you really face this part of yourself that you've been ignoring and integrate it, then all of a sudden you're able to catapult forward on your journey. It can definitely be confusing to go through the process alone. That's why I do the work that I do now. When I first started out on this healing journey, I had no intention of becoming a healer. But as I started growing, learning, and changing, people around me were like, hey, I noticed something different here. Like, what have you been doing? So I started guiding friends in some of the modalities and experiences that I had been through. And then I gained training in this, really created a program to help people heal and to be a supportive guide in their spiritual awakening process. Because oftentimes, as people start doing the healing work, the spiritual awakening just happens. If you don't have the right support system in place, that can be very scary, very isolating. So it's great to have guides that you can work with and also learn how to trust yourself. I'll be a guide, but also you're your ultimate guru.
I love that. The beauty in being able to control your path. We all create our own realities. The first step to healing is realizing that we are in charge of how we feel, how we think, and what we experience. It sounds so easy and straightforward saying it out loud, but taking that lesson, internalizing it, and really believing it's still something that I'm working on today. Anytime you're faced with something that's really big and a challenge that's new to us, you have to remind yourself that no, this is the reality that we create. I am in charge of these emotions. I get to direct this movie. I am the main character of my own film.
Yes, so powerful. And I love that you said, I'm still working on this. Me too. I have a tattoo on my arm so that I can be reminded I create my reality. It's in my own handwriting. Reality is bendy because I can shape it. I still have to remind myself of that every day. And of course, there are things that can feel out of our control, but it's how do we respond to it? And that response actually does end up shifting our external reality. I think that's really important to note here for people that are starting to come to this work of I'm the creator of my reality. There's 2 things to think about. If you often are finding that something's showing up in your external reality, something's always showing up and you're asking, why me, why this, look at your subconscious thoughts. Because until we make the subconscious conscious, it will rule our life. That's the famous quote. It really is true, because if we're not taking care of our subconscious mind, it's still creating reality. We could be unaware all of these things that are happening in our life that's around us, we're actually creating from the subconscious plane. Really starting to get familiar of what are your subconscious drives, thoughts, and limiting beliefs that maybe you have never even considered. And then the second is, if we're talking about it from an energetic standpoint, often when we're finding that we're not able to create our reality, it really starts in the base of the chakra system, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, because you have to think about it as Maslow's hierarchy. You have to feel safe first. That's like the primary need. After we feel safe, we can feel creative. We can feel creative to explore. So that creative energy starts in our sacral chakra, and this is for both men and women. We have a creative life force there that can actually create a whole human. So of course you can bring things into manifest reality. But then we need our solar plexus to be open, which is our place of power and our place of authenticity. If this is open, it really allows us to manifest in a healthy way. When it's closed, we can start to feel a victim mentality, and that starts to create a cycle. You're right when you say this is the first basis of healing, because it does start at the base of the chakra system, our very basic needs to be able to create the reality around us.
We need safety. We need security. That's starting at the root chakra. As you go up the chakras, you're aligning with yourself, and then you're aligning with the greater good. Once you've reached the top of the chakra, you're able to connect with everyone else, and that oneness, the feeling of feeling larger than yourself.
Yes, that oneness is so powerful. I love that you brought that up. I'm curious, did you have an experience where you felt like, okay, I've aligned all of these and I'm connecting to that greater intelligence and oneness? Is there like a time in your life that you really felt that?
The first time was after I had met my partner, Matt. He really helped me on my spiritual journey. Finding the person that is able to be that foundation to allow you to grow into your own. Once that was set and firm, I was then able to step into myself. When we first started to get to know each other, that foundation was being laid out and built. A few months in, I would walk on the streets feeling larger than myself, knowing that there was a whole world out there that I was just beginning to experience, to understand, and that started with myself. Once I felt that, I could feel the leaves on the trees and connected to them, the wind blowing on my face, and feeling alive, feeling what my purpose was to be on this planet. Did I have the purpose written out in my mind? Absolutely not, but I knew that it was there. And I knew that quest to start and to find it, I was on it.
Yeah, wow, that's so beautiful. And I was just laughing to myself when you were speaking, because I thought this reflects so wonderfully what we just stated. He created that safety. He created that safety, that base support for you to feel like you can truly tap into yourself. I find that a lot of times in relationships between the masculine and the feminine energies, we can talk about the yin and the yang energy. What's the more receptive energy? What's the more assertive energy?
Right.
Coming together in a relationship, oftentimes the more like assertive energy will provide that sense of grounding and safety, so that the feminine energy can feel free to explore, to bloom, to blossom, and to really reach its highest potential. Whereas the feminine energy comes in, creates this sense of sensuality, creativity, ease, and it allows the masculine to step into its highest potential. When you come into divine union, that's really what a relationship does for you. Feminine energy calls the masculine into its highest potential through its creativity, through its sensitivity. The masculine energy calls the feminine energy into its highest potential through its assertion, through its safety.
We experience the feminine and the masculine within ourselves, within relationships, and then within the greater good. How do we balance that feminine and the masculine within ourselves?
First, we need to get really clear on, are we looking at feminine and masculine in the gender constructs, or are we looking at feminine and masculine from an energy basis? When we think about energy, I like to talk about it in terms of the yin and the yang energy. Feminine energy is receptive. It is creative. It is intuitive. It is connected to the earth. It's rested. Masculine energy is assertion, logic, execution, leading. We do have both within us, but we tend to prioritize the masculine energy. If you look at businesses, it's always go, go, go. How much can you get done in a day? Our entire business structure is set up around the masculine cycle. The masculine hormone cycle is only 24 hours. We set up our entire way we operate business in that 24 hours, whereas the feminine is a 30-day cycle or a 28-day cycle. There's times of rest and there's times of creation. If you're wanting to come more into your feminine energy, I would look at what is your relationship to work, and is my work always asking me to be in the masculine? Because oftentimes it is. I have so many female clients that are like, oh, it's so hard because masculine work is always asking me to be logic, strength, execution. If that's the case, and you do really have to be in that energy, it's asking yourself when there's opportunities to bring in the feminine, because many times there's certain ways that the feminine can empower a work project or bring things to fruition that the masculine can't do. There is a time to bring intuition and creativity and inspiration into these roles. Asking yourself, can I have the courage to allow that part of myself to shine? What practices outside of your work are you doing on a daily basis? How are you slowing down? How are you nurturing yourself to really help you come back into balance? I think that's really important.
Sounds like as much as it is within us, it's also looking at the external factors that are in our lives. Mm-hmm. By looking at those external factors, we're able to define what those are internally. We can align and balance the two.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So many female leaders are scared to step into the feminine, but I'm sure you heard of this. The feminine rising is happening on Earth right now. We can see it in the younger generations that are much more in tune with their emotions, more compassionate. If we look at the way that we talk about health now, that's coming from a more feminine construct. We need to care about our mental and emotional health, whereas before it was keep quiet, don't express. This feminine rising is happening, and by actually embracing it, looking at these external factors and saying, okay, where can I shift and bring in more of my feminine energy? This is for men too. Where can I allow intuition to come in? That is what's going to help move our society forward. We need conscious business leaders that are operating from this place of balance within, connecting to their higher self. I keep saying it because I love that you brought this forward with your podcast, but ultimately lead with love. Lead from the heart rather than the mind all the time.
What does a world of leading with love and feminine energy look like to you?
It looks like utopia. My dream. It looks like a world of peace, because when we look at the primary emotions of love and fear, all of these negative thoughts that we have come from fear. Like wars are coming from fear of other. When we look at love and just leading with open hearts, it allows us to give and to receive freely. The heart chakra isn't just about giving, it's about receiving too, and you need both for it to be full and to be open. If we're able to give and receive freely, if we're able to truly connect with one another, then we'll come to resolutions in a much more peaceful way. We'll be able to understand one another. We'll be able to empathize with one another. I keep saying that what we're seeing in the world today is really an empathy crisis. It is a crisis of not being able to put ourselves into each other's shoes. That is a direct result of continuing to crush down the feminine, which has been what's happened in the past hundreds of years.
How does balancing the feminine and the masculine in a relationship build a wholeness within each of the two in that union?
Yeah. When you feel balanced already within yourself, then you're not looking for someone to fill a hole. When you're doing that, usually the relationship is not in the highest good. It does create this imbalance because it creates a dependency. If each person feels balanced within themselves, then they'll be able to attract another person that's in balance. Instead of having an anxious and an avoidant attachment style, you have two people in a very secure attachment style. In my relationship specifically, I was really in my masculine. I was super in my masculine, very independent, go, go, go. My partner, Pavan, was a little bit more in his feminine. Masculine in the ways he goes about the world in business, but definitely very intuitive, very sensitive and empathetic. He was really balanced in that way. It helped to regulate my nervous system in a way that was like, okay, because before I was always going for these super, super macho types, and then we would both be avoidant.
Lack of communication.
But he came into the relationship so secure. Yeah. It just shifted a place in me where it really allowed me to soften into my feminine. By me softening into my feminine, I even felt that it called him higher into his masculine. It allowed him to be in a role to support, to be strong. It really unlocked both of our potentials, and we're still continuing to grow in that and to call each other into our higher selves, but it unlocked something in us that we weren't tapping into.
By being with someone who is able to be that foundation for what you need, it allows you to tap into that power within yourself.
Yes. Just like you and Matt.
It might be the most special experience that we get to experience on this earth.
Yes.
It's never ending. Once you tap into it, the journey has just begun.
Yes.
You go through seasons. Every few months or few years in your relationship, checking in, balancing, and seeing how can we rebalance that masculine and the feminine.
Yeah, especially because we change so much. Being in a relationship is really a commitment to choosing that person and to loving that person and accepting that person for each leg of the journey. It is an initiation every few years. Are we still in alignment? Do we still share the same values? How have you changed? How have I changed? And how can we assess this and continue to grow together in love? When you said it's the greatest gift or the greatest adventure we experience in life, that really resonated with me, because when I was first going on my spiritual awakening journey, I felt like, okay, as I connect deeper and deeper to the divine, how can I give myself to another person? That's too human. It's too human to want romantic love when I'm unconditional love, when I love everything and everyone, and I'm going to be continuing my transcendent journey. You don't see monks don't take partners, priests don't take partners. There's like this sense of you have to be only in union with the divine. And to be in a romantic relationship is almost like less than this union with the divine. But what I found was actually the relationship is a direct reflection of the union with the divine. It allows us to experience this divine cosmic connection with another person. You don't have to choose either or. I can be unconditional love, have this beautiful relationship with Source, and also have this wonderful romantic relationship of experiencing a different type of love, and see how that is a reflection for the unconditional love through Source. It allows me to tap into love each day.
That's beautiful. What is so beautiful about the feminine is our heart and the space that our hearts have. The feminine having this amazingly large heart and being able to give love, unconditional love, to one person. But as soon as you have children, your heart suddenly grows and becomes bigger. And suddenly you have unconditional love for your partner and unconditional love for that child. Then as soon as the second child comes about, your heart grows even more. The same thing happens as we begin to open and share our love with the world. Our hearts just continue to grow larger, so you're able to provide and give more love to everyone else that's out there.
Yes, and then that unconditional love just continues to ripple. And when another person feels that, then that starts to activate their unconditional love. As we heal ourselves, as we heal our hearts, as we step into our higher selves, it truly creates ripples because we're all connected. You have no idea how that may affect another person. And then how they take that energy that you have given them and they share it with another person, and it's infinite.
I'm sure you can feel that when you meet someone whose heart is open. They have so much love to share. They inspire you. They bring out this light within you. They make you feel confident and sure of yourself, and that you are capable of whatever you put your mind to.
You can also feel it in spaces. The electric dance community is a perfect representation of this. You go into those spaces and you can feel how high the vibrational frequency is. That's why people keep coming back. Those people are leading with open hearts, and they're dancing in such a way to express joy and connect with the divine. You can really feel that shift and how that affects the entire community, the entire space. And then you can walk into another room, especially if you're living in certain places where maybe these practices are not yet adopted, and you can feel this sense of restriction sometimes, this like feeling of, oh, love is hard to give. There's a scarcity or a lack. And I really think that comes down to how are we looking at our traumas and our blocks in our energy system? How are we working to release those? Because at the end of the day, everything is energy. It's how it affects our physical and mental health. If we have blocks here, we're not going to be able to open the heart. We're not going to be able to fully connect into spirit. Not saying that everyone in the EDM community has like done all this trauma healing work. I just think it's a great example. If you've been to a show like that, you can feel the sensation of love there versus in a room that doesn't have that same energy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something about being around music, whatever type of music it is, that makes you feel alive, takes you on this journey, and makes you connect with yourself and everyone else around you. And you get that euphoria feeling. You mentioned we have to start by unblocking our traumas within ourselves, physically, mentally, spiritually. One of the ways to do that is by looking at our subconscious thoughts. What else should we look at? What practices can we incorporate into our lives?
There are so many different modalities that you can work with. As you said earlier, it's so unique, it's so personal. I'm biased to Reiki and energy healing and plant medicine, so I'll speak a little bit on that, and then we can broaden it out. But I really find that both energy healing and psychedelic medicine, they allow you to get into an altered state of consciousness. And from that altered state of consciousness, if you go with intention into the experience, you can start to examine things from a different lens. So that starts to help you build awareness. Additionally, journaling really helps us. If you do open page journaling, I say write for 3 pages in a row. If you don't know what you're going to write, keep writing and see what comes out, is a way to start helping the things in the subconscious flow out. After you are starting to build awareness of what's in your subconscious, whether you're in an altered state through Reiki, through psychedelic medicine, or you're just open journaling, another great practice is holotropic breath work, because that helps activate the body's natural DMT. So again, getting into an altered state of consciousness. Once you start to be aware of what are these subconscious thoughts or beliefs, then you can start working to shift them. And you can do this on your own, but it is really helpful to have a guide to work with you. I have other people that I work with because it can be hard to see into my own experience. And when you're speaking with someone about these thoughts that are coming up, they might be able to pick up on something that maybe you have not yet. Then you're wanting to start to shift these thoughts and beliefs through daily practices. Daily practices can be meditation, they can be affirmations, they can be exercise. Say that the limiting belief you have or the thought you have is, I'm lonely, no one understands me, I can't connect to anyone. Okay, well maybe your daily practice is to reach out to one person each day, send a text to someone that you love, and just like form that sense of a connection. And then once a week, pick up the phone and get on a phone call. Starting to do something that challenges the belief that you're alone. It's like, oh, actually there are these people that you have that you can reach out to. I use that as a very practical example because sometimes meditation, while meditation is my favorite practice and I love it and I find that it heals everything, it's all about finding what practices resonate and what makes you feel good.
There's different modalities and practices that help at different times in your life. Personally, I've noticed that there are times where I am really on top of my meditation and I am very adamant about carving out a certain amount of time each morning, starting my day with meditation. There are other times where I'm lucky when I get 5 minutes in. And then there are times where, a different form, running. I, at one point in my life, used to run 47 miles a week. Insane. Woke up one morning and said to myself, you know what? I've played sports all my life. I've done all these things, but I've never really been a runner. I'm going to start running. And so I made a goal of running 3 miles every day. Gradually built up to casually going out and deciding to run a half marathon. And at that point in my life, running was my everything. Mm-hmm. It was the cleanse. I've done colonics, liver cleanses, everything you can imagine. And at that point, running did all of it for me.
Well, there's the runner's high. That's even an example of getting into an altered state of consciousness or a heightened state of consciousness through this runner's high, where all of a sudden you're having downloads, you're feeling super connected to yourself, and you leave that feeling so good. That's a perfect example of a practice that works for you in that moment of time.
Right. It's natural and normal for us to go through different phases and to be drawn to different practices. And as you mentioned earlier, we're constantly changing. As we're changing, the practices that we're incorporating in our life might change as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I work with clients all the time that maybe feel stuck in their practice, and I say, if it just feels like you're going through the motions, it's time to look at that and see, what shift do I need to make? Is this practice really benefiting me? Do I want to dig in with more commitment, or do I want to shift the practice? Maybe we bring in something different for that time. I find that with myself too, with meditation. Sometimes it wanes and I start picking up other practices, but then I always do, when I come back to meditation, I'm like, this is the one.
Yeah. Walk us through your practice of meditation.
Okay. Well, it's a little different than putting on a guided meditation, which is great for when you're first starting out with meditation and you need that guide, but having a guided meditation in some way still keeps us in our intellect, because we're listening to something and we're following it. My meditation practice is just to sit down, to open, and just say, okay, I'm ready for whatever wants to come through, and I just stay there as long as I need to stay there until I feel like I've gotten into the state or the information that I need. It is a very transcendent experience. I'm essentially entering an altered state of consciousness every time that I meditate, and that's not how everyone will experience meditation. There's lots of different relationships we can have for meditation. Some people are using it to fully quiet the mind. Some people are using it open monitoring meditation to see what thoughts are coming through and why they're coming through, and then journaling about that. Some people are using visualization meditation, maybe because they want to manifest something in their life or bring something into fruition. There's lots of different forms of meditation. Loving kindness meditation to get us more into our hearts and send our love out to others. But for me, it's more of a active transcendent experience where I'm going into different realms to receive information. It's kind of what leads my life. I have my daily meditation, and it will tell me what I need to do in relation to my purpose, or sometimes I'll get an insight that comes through about my business. Sometimes it will be a very healing experience. I go into the meditation, I didn't know we were going to have a deep healing experience, but all of a sudden I'm crying, things are coming out. So it's very open for me. And
sounds very lethargic.
Yeah. Whenever you're starting to meditate, you have to choose what practice feels okay for you, just as we've been saying. And sometimes it's starting out small, and sometimes it's picking something that's guided or a very specific form of meditation, but eventually it just is, you're getting to a place where you are the oneness, and you get to experience that oneness all the time. Psychedelic medicine is a tool just to show us what's already inside of us. Like when I meditate, it's all, took the psychedelic back into the oneness.
So you can reach that psychedelic experience without even taking psychedelics.
Yes, that is what they show us. They show us what's already there. They help take down the veils. And we all are able to have these very transcendent moments. We're all able to sense beyond the 5 senses. When I say that my psychic abilities came online, They were always there, they were just dormant, and we all have those abilities. We are all able to experience beyond the five senses, just like a mother has mother's intuition. That's something that's a lot more commonly heard, it's more accepted, but like a mother gets like a gut feeling about her child and then something's wrong. We all are able to experience intuitive hits, experience beyond the five senses, but it's the society that we're in Western society, that has really deconditioned us to disconnect from the feminine, to not trust our intuition, to rationalize everything.
How does that differ from societies in the East? How can we take practices that they incorporate and help to solve some of the issues that we have here in the West?
It really is a marriage between Eastern and Western thought. For example, we've been talking about meditation. That is a practice that's rooted in Eastern religious traditions. We've taken it and made it less religious and acceptable and reachable for all people here in the West. We act as though we're discovering these new practices when they've actually been rooted in ancient tradition for centuries. It's hard to categorize it as one like Eastern thought, because there's many different religions within Eastern thought, but in general there is a sense that the mysticism is still there. The mysticism and the connection to all life and to all beings, and being able to directly connect with the divine in daily life, versus in the West, which separates us. There is this sense of everything in the external world is more important, whereas in Eastern thought it's okay, everything in the spirit world. We have incarnation, we can come back, we are not these physical bodies. And in the Western world, this is it. This physical body is it. This human experience is it, not this sense that we're greater than this human body. Once we start to feel that we are all connected and that our spirits are infinite, it brings together a sense of unity. In the Eastern religions, at least in Buddhism and Hinduism, the chakra system is something that is talked about, that is known, this energy body. And it's funny because now in the Western world, quantum physics is, oh, everything's energy, matter's not solid. This is crazy. And over there, they're saying, hey, we told you this a long time ago. Everything's happening in perfect timing. We need the rational mind to build incredible cities and to create businesses, but we've been spending so long focusing on the outer technology. And it's time to start to turn to the inner technology.
Would you say that outer technology is more related to the masculine, and the inner technology is related more to the feminine?
I've never thought of it like that, but it makes sense. Yeah, because it's executing, it's rational, it's getting things done, it's technology that's helping move things forward, and it's able to be seen and felt immediately. It's like more of an instant gratification to, okay, we can see this, we can feel it, we believe it. Whereas like the inner technology sometimes feels like maybe it's not something that we need to prioritize because it's more slow, it's more intuitive. You're not seeing those results right away. It's happening at such a subtle level, but it actually is creating this ripple effect that's affecting the outer. I'm gonna play with that. I had never thought of it that way, and I think it's really interesting that you brought that up.
I'm gonna bring up another point.
Okay.
So, if the outer technology, the build, the accomplishment, being able to get things done is the masculine, would you say AI is more so connected to the masculine?
Oh my gosh, AI, I think about this all the time. I have so many thoughts around AI, and I'm not an expert on it. Everything that I say here is just my speculation and thoughts.
We love a good speculation.
Yeah, is how do we know that we're not the AI, which actually you came to my room that one night and said, but I've been thinking of that a lot. How do we know that we have not been like seated here as an experiment to watch how we grow and evolve, which is partially what I believe. The way that it has been built to help us get things done and to exceed and to move things forward is definitely more in the masculine construct. But I don't think we can attribute a specific energy to it yet, because as of now, I don't believe AI is conscious. Could it evolve into a conscious sentient being? Very well. It's possible. And then maybe there will be able to see, is it more masculine, is it more feminine? That's something that only time will tell, I guess.
Stay tuned.
I don't know. I'm just ready for the AI to do all of the admin work, wash my dishes, clean my house, and then I can just run in the flower fields and do my healing, and that's it.
Maybe we'll see what it's better at. Is it better at completing the masculine tasks, or is it better at completing the feminine tasks?
Interesting. I've always said AI can't take my job because it can't channel energy, but who knows? Anything is possible.
Definitely. Especially at the rate that it's growing. Yeah. Let's go back to energy and the work that you do. What does it mean to provide Reiki?
Okay. So Reiki is universal life force energy. It's not my energy. It is tapping from an infinite source of energy that has been around since the beginning of time. It is channeled through the practitioner through certain symbols and activations that the practitioner receives from a Reiki master. As they channel that energy, it helps balance the body's energy field. So we already know that the heart creates an electromagnetic field that extends 4 to 10 feet beyond the body. We can see with Kirlian photography how shifts in our energy field or auric field are happening after Reiki sessions or before Reiki sessions. Even with stress in our lives, we can see these shifts of our energy field. And while we don't necessarily understand the exact mechanisms of how Reiki works, we're able to see its results. So there have been plenty of studies that show that Reiki is associated with reduced stress, reduced anxiety, reduced depression, reduced pain, spiritual transformation, spiritual well-being, reduced healing time. It's used in 800 hospitals across the US, more than 800 hospitals. And so it's really starting...
And it's used today in
hospitals. Today in hospitals, yeah. So it's starting to be more accepted in the Western medical world, which is great. The more that we begin to understand quantum physics, the more we'll understand the mechanisms of action of Reiki. But it really is a complementary modality, and anyone can experience its benefits. What's really special about Reiki is that anyone can learn it, because we are all channels, and whether we realize it or not, we are always channeling some kind of energy. The same way that you can walk into a room and, like you said, you can feel someone's radiant energy, you can also maybe feel sometimes it might not be that way. Maybe someone's experiencing stress and all of a sudden you're experiencing that stress because they're channeling that energy and you're receiving that energy. We are energetic beings, so there's always some kind of energetic message going in and out. That's just a little tidbit. If you're unsure of this whole energy thing, you've experienced energy, and I'm sure there's a point and moment in your life where you realized, oh, okay, that must be someone's energy, the vibes.
Curating the vibes. Definitely. Even just at a party or event, you feel the vibes, and you either want to stay or you're like, I'd rather curl up in bed. No thanks.
Exactly. So we've all experienced this sensation of energy. When you're receiving a Reiki session, it's just allowing yourself to be open, and the Reiki practitioner channels this high frequency energy. It's not my energy. The best thing I can do as a Reiki practitioner is move out of the way. Egoically release.
How do you separate yourself from the channel?
I say a prayer and I put my ego aside, and sometimes it can be hard because it wants to pop back in and say, hey, is anything happening in this session? How's the person doing? But it's a practice, and meditation really, really helps with that, because meditation allows us to quiet the ego mind. That's why it's one of my primary modalities that I use for my own well-being, because it allows me to practice releasing the ego. The more that you can release the ego as a practitioner, the more the energy flows through to the client. When the person is receiving Reiki, they can feel things like energy flowing through their entire body, their hands being cold and tingly. Sometimes they feel the presence of other beings around them. Sometimes they have very vivid visions. You just did the Reiki training with me, so I'd be curious to know what your experience of that was like.
For as long as I can remember, have always been very sensitive to energy. And similar to how you were when you were younger, I had no idea what that meant. And thought that everyone felt that way.
Yes.
Didn't know that there was some people who were maybe more sensitive or in tune than others. As I continued to get older, it developed into really becoming aware that I can actually feel the energy. When I say I feel the energy, I can feel the strength of it in my hands, around my body, like that imaginary field that we have and all the particles that are moving through every part of what is.
Yeah.
I can feel
Yes.
that. And doing the training with you, it really helped to awaken that reassurance that I'm not crazy.
This is real.
Right.
This is real, because sometimes we're so trained to believe that if we can't see it, it's not real.
Yeah.
But then we start to feel it, and maybe we're starting to see it in our mind's eye. It's really helpful to have that affirmation of, okay, others are having this experience. This feeling that I'm having in my hands is real. And then when you're working on someone, you're working on their heart chakra, and then they come out of it saying, I feel like my heart is blasted open. You're like, okay, it's real.
Words of affirmation.
Yes, I love a words of affirmation experience. I'm definitely a words girly. Tell me all the things.
I love that. Yeah, it's really interesting how everyone experiences everything differently.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've really noticed to help me is by going in and understanding what works for me, how do I perceive, or how do I best perceive?
Mm-hmm.
What senses of mine are strongest? What feels right? As I continue to develop that, it feels like more of my authentic self is able to shine through.
I love that. And so when we talk about the senses, I think that's really important, because there's 5 different clair senses. And if we get to know the clair senses, it does allow you to see how is my higher self or spirit communicating with me, and how can I use that to guide my life, guide my interactions with others and my well-being. The 5 senses are claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairgustience. And so claircognizance is clear knowing. It's when you get intuitive information, it comes through as a strong knowing. And it's like you're using pretty much all the other senses together to have this knowing that comes through to you.
Is that knowing related to that gut feeling?
It can be. That would be more clairsentience. That's clear feeling, so clear sensations. Sometimes the gut is related to clear knowing, because when you're clear knowing, you are using all the clear senses together. But when you get physical sensations like goosebumps, I call them truth bumps, your body's way of communicating to you, something that's being said right now is really important or really resonant with me. That's an example of clairsentience. And clairvoyance is the one that most people know of, they've heard of, and it's the one that everyone wants. But I always say it's the least reliable, because it's when you're getting visions, you're getting images, but the brain has a way of trying to fill the gaps into those images. The ego mind wants to come in and see a very clear picture, so you have to be careful that you're not projecting what you want onto those images. When you start to receive a visual or have a vision in a meditation, sometimes it might not make sense, and then you start journaling about it, and you're like, okay, what does this mean? And you start to gather information, and that can help you on your journey. Maybe you were looking for clarity on a certain aspect in your life. Clairgustience is taste. I don't experience that, but I've heard of some people that will be like, oh, I'm tasting blueberry muffins, and then someone will say, oh my gosh, yeah, like it's my favorite treat. I don't know. I do have a very strong sense of smell, but I don't use it. I don't use it when I'm giving energy readings. And then clairaudience is hearing. So sometimes hearing a message or getting a very powerful download that doesn't come in your own voice. These are all just ways that we interact beyond our 5 senses. And when we start to see this as normal, it is normal. Going back to mother's intuition, that's a way that we've normalized it. Like being able to perceive beyond our 5 senses is normal. And the more that we talk about it and the more that we prioritize it and allowing that feminine intuitive knowing for both men and women, then we can start to lead our lives from a place of being divinely guided, from a place of feeling really confident and secure in the decisions that we make, feeling really grounded and peaceful, and having open hearts to just lead a really beautiful life.
Do you think that it allows you to be able to make decisions faster?
If I need to make a difficult decision, yes. In the mundane daily choices, like choosing which cereal to have or which movie to watch, it will take me so long to make those mundane decisions because they're not so important. I would not say I'm tapping into my intuition for that. But for a very important life decision, I would say, yes, I move much quicker than their average person. We came to Puerto Rico. I was with a friend. We were walking down the street and she was like, you guys should move here. And I tapped in. I was like, I think we're supposed to move here. And I called my partner and I said, hey, I think we're supposed to move here. And we moved here like a few weeks later. I was like, trust, I'm getting this. It's part of our path. We need to be here right now. There's a reason why all this is aligning. And I was getting so many signs from the universe that was showing me that this move was in alignment. At this point, if I had said this to my partner in the first year of dating, he probably would have said, you are crazy. Right. We need to really sit down and look at all the logistics and everything. But by this point, he has learned to trust my intuition. So it was a much easier conversation. He said, oh wait, I'm feeling that too. And I said, trust it. It's your intuition. And we just made the move, and it's been so beautiful.
Do you feel your intuition leads the two of your relationship, or is it 50-50?
Sometimes it's more my intuition, sometimes it's more his rationality, and we need that. The balance is really good. I always say, I don't know how we functioned before without each other, because it's like we both have half of a brain that's really powerful, and together we put our brains together, and it makes like a whole very powerful brain. Intuition definitely leads our relationship, but we would not be able to do everything we do without his sense of grounding and logic.
Mm-hmm. So you need that masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
To be able to successfully flow through life.
Exactly. Also, it's like I might have an intuition, I might have a vision, but we still need to execute on it.
Right.
Like, he definitely helps execute to bring it down into the material.
The masculine is that builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
The executor, the one that is able to see the plan and say, this is how we get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to be that way. It's not, doesn't always work. My brain just doesn't work in that way.
No, I definitely function more of, this is how I feel, which can definitely drive Matt crazy. He's like, I don't know how to decipher when you're feeling a certain way in that moment and when you're truly feeling that, and that means we need to move forward in that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pevin just wrote me a note that was like, I know you have a lot of feelings, and sometimes that can make things challenging, but I love all of your feelings because it's so special to be able to feel to the depths that you do, and it allows you to feel and empathize with all people. And I was like, you see me. I do have a lot of feelings. I feel everything all the time.
We're emotional beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And emotions are healthy. Working through the traumas, another way to release them is through feeling and letting those emotions out.
Yes.
Because those create those blockages.
That is essential. We have to feel it to heal it. Emotions are so beautiful. They tell us how we're feeling, how we're interacting with our world. They're essential for how we live and operate in the material realm. Just as it's important to feel them, we also don't want to sit in them. What happens often, I see two things. One, you're either feeling the emotion and then you start to embody this idea that I am the emotion. You and the emotion are not separate, and you like become that emotion and it just becomes part of your existence, when actually no, that's just like emotions are fleeting. They come and go. It's an energy, and so it moves through us. We can feel it, we can release it. And then the other area where people get stuck, as you mentioned, is they don't feel it and it just gets compartmentalized, and then it becomes a block. Really helpful ways to release emotion are somatic work, yoga, breath work, doing things that move energy in and out of the body. Also crying. I always joke that statistically women live longer than men. It's because we cry and we let out our emotions, and that's starting to change now, where it's like men are allowed to cry, and that's beautiful, and I always want to hold the space when my partner is expressing emotion. But I would say the generation above us, like, I've never seen my father cry.
Right.
Maybe he does just in privacy, but we want to embrace that the crying is a way that we're releasing emotions. Going and giving a primordial scream into the abyss can help us release. I often tell clients, like, go on a hike and scream at the top of the mountain. That third chakra needs to open. As you were saying, the emotions are sacred. We don't want to hold on to them, and we don't want to store them. We want to allow them to come and go as visitors. We are not the emotions. They're something we're experiencing. They're an energy moving through us.
Someone who isn't so emotional, how can they get comfortable with feeling and releasing it?
Yeah, the first thing is to ask yourself, what is it costing? Oftentimes people say, I don't want to deal with emotions, I don't feel emotions. Are you feeling exuberant joy? Are you feeling ecstasy? Are you feeling love? Are you feeling radiance in your life? Oftentimes the answer is no, because when we try to cut off the negative emotions, we're cutting ourselves off from feeling. That means we're not feeling the bad, but we're not feeling the good either. It makes it going through this life blasé experience.
It's a numbing way to live.
Exactly. First thing is to notice that. Are you feeling good emotions? By not allowing yourself to feel the bad emotions, are you feeling the good emotions? A lot of times the very core base work is working with a therapist. If you've been so used to not expressing emotions, it's going to be really hard to do that with a partner or a friend. You need like a neutral person where they can just ask you questions, question after question, that eventually is going to elicit a response, and then maybe you're feeling an emotion and you're able to start to identify that emotion and starting to build emotional intelligence. Like, what are all the different emotions that we're feeling and how can I label this? How can I identify what I'm feeling? And just starting to notice that in life and starting to bring them out. And then as you're doing that work is when I start to say, okay, let's bring in the next tier. Maybe we're doing Reiki, or we're doing psychedelic medicine, or you're doing more somatic breathwork practices and yoga. That is training you to notice the emotion as it surfaces. It's also energetically starting to unlock you. This is why I say that these therapies are all complementary. You need to look at it from a holistic perspective. One feeds into the other.
We've talked about awareness, understanding our subconscious thoughts and beliefs, balancing the feminine and the masculine within ourselves, reaching a state of self-awareness, reaching a state of balance through meditation, and healing our traumas. What else, if anything, are we missing that's really important as we're all on our own individual healing journeys?
Wow, well, first I'll say we've covered a lot of ground there. We went in so many different directions. We touched on it, but really making sure that we are living each day as our authentic and highest self. That is the space that we want to get to, and everything that we just talked about is essentially a facilitator, a roadmap to get there. And when we talk about the highest self, sometimes we can think, oh, it's above us, but it's inside of us. It is the part of us that vibrates at a higher frequency. It is of higher consciousness. It is the part of us that we embody when we are in a healed state, when we are in a state of love, when we are in a state of gratitude. How can we tap into that throughout daily life? Because your practices are wonderful and it's great to take the time for those practices, but what's going to happen when someone goes to trigger you? How are we going to respond to that? The goal of these practices is to get you in familiarity with your authentic and true self, your highest self, this divine aspect of you, and be able to bring yourself back into balance when you get triggered, to maybe respond differently. If you didn't respond how you liked in that moment, you can reflect on it and say, okay, I'm going to make a shift next time and I'm going to get back into balance. Being enlightened in the modern day world is not going to the top of the mountain and sitting like a monk and just solely connecting with the divine. I could be in a state of enlightenment all the time if I was not dealing with all the external world. In the modern world, we're going to have a lot of different things interacting with us. So, the more enlightened being is able to see how they're responding and to notice an imbalance in themselves and shift back into their true and authentic nature.
The goal is being able to understand ourselves and understand how to shift and make those changes to come back into balance when things get out of whack.
Yeah. How does that serve the world? We all have a role to play. We all have a role to play in the collective awakening as the planet expands into a higher realm of consciousness. When we heal ourselves, when we understand ourselves, we heal the world.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Okay, one last question for you. What does it mean to lead with love to you?
To keep your heart open, time after time, even when outside circumstances, people, places, experiences might want to break it, might want to shift you into closing your heart, to keep it open through pain, to see yourself in another and feel that sense of unconditional love, because we are all connected, we are all one. To lead with love is to lead with courage, vulnerability, sensitivity, empathy. In doing so, you create a life of joy, of ease, of deep connection to others, to the planet, to spirit, to yourself.
You're on the path, the happy cult path.
I love being part of the happy cult.
Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your light. Wanting to end with a Reiki activation?
Yes, I would love that. We can do a little heart chakra opening to help everyone lead with love. So maybe I'll just light a little Palo Santo here. We'll do a clearing for you all.
Perfect.
Here we go. And I would love for you to channel Reiki too, since you are a Reiki practitioner. So if you're listening and you're able to close your eyes, I invite you to softly close your eyes. If you're in an environment where you can't close your eyes, just at least try to soften your gaze. Take a moment to shift inward. You can place your hands on your heart if you're feeling called to do that. And just take a few deep breaths in, feeling the lungs expand, and exhale, feeling the process of release. Deep breath in, feeling the heart expand, and exhale, letting go. Let's take one last deep breath in together, and exhale. And now bring your attention to the center of your chest, the heart chakra located beside the physical heart. And just set the intention to allow this space to expand. Allow the energy to expand here. Allow unconditional love to flow in. The unconditional love of the universe flowing through you and expanding outward. And give yourself permission to let go of anything you may be holding on to in your heart that's not serving you. Letting it float to the surface and float away. Creating more space for the energy to flow. You are loved. You are loved. May infinite, unconditional love be your guide. May you keep your heart open. And may you radiate love to all beings, including yourself. Thank you. Whew.
Wow. That was strong.
Both of us together, I can feel that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was so amazing.